Hey, Hans from Rockets for Music here. Um, I'm going to create a bunch of videos on harmonics, which is a new module that's going to be in the store hopefully as soon as possible. Harmonics is a module where you can select up to 64 oscillators at the same time. It's a monophonic oscillator or source, but with a lot of options. You can see it's called harmonics. I've got a global tune, I've got a pitch input, I've got an 8-gate input and an output, of course. And as you can tell here in the top left, it has one harmonic selected. And there's a lot of other features there. But if I click on that one harmonic selected, you can see that you have that range of, in total, 64 oscillators that you can switch on. And that means that if I have a pitch and a gate connected that I have at the moment in the top, coming from the interface, but I've put it as large as possible on the screen, that if I click or if I enter a key, obviously you hear one sine oscillator because it's a sine at this point. And all of the active harmonic settings that you can do for any active harmonic that you have selected are within this range, within this block here, where you see the number of the selected harmonic and you can switch through them as they are selected. You have a level that you can set, you have an envelope that you can switch on, and a couple of other options there. And apart from that, I've got coarse, fine, phase, and panning, because it's stereo out if you want to. It has an envelope, attack, decay, sustain, release, and you have an edit mode where you can select just the current harmonic or all or even or odd or octaves if you want to. And you can set the wave from sine to triangle, saw, square, or flat shouldn't be in there. As I said, it's actually still in beta, but I wanted to show you anyway. So at this point, I only have one oscillator, and obviously it listens to the keyboard, and you see that you also have a block with modulated values, and you have a block with 16 external inputs that you could use, and the part on the bottom is intended for modulations. So that means that if I am going to click on any of those buttons here on those things, I've got a setting for the active oscillator that I want to set, the source index, so to speak. I want to change the source that I can do something with, and that could be envelope, pitch, output, envelope, output, LFO, or either of those external inputs that I had. So let's say that I use the envelope output. I can tell it where to go, so it's going to the target, which is 0 as well, the oscillator itself. And I can set a target as being coarse, fine, phase, attack, or any of the other ones underneath. So let's put it on phase, and I have to add it to this list here by using the add, and otherwise I could do an update or a remove. So I'm going to add this now, and I'm going to dial up the depth. So now it's frequency modulating with its own output. It's going to frequency modulate that oscillator. So I could do something like that. And you can actually add multiple modulations. It's sort of a modulation matrix sort of kind of thing, or anyway, modulation list. So if, for instance, I also have an LFO here, if I also want to change the frequency of that same oscillator 0 by using the LFO as a source, I could click on number 1 as a source index, which is that harmonic, because even if I use the LFO, it still needs some ID there. But at least I'm going to number 0, and I'm going to change the coarse frequency. So if I press on add, the depth it is at 0 at the moment, but if I dial that up, See. You hear that it's indeed modulating, and this of course sets the speed for that. So I could do something like that, but obviously, as I said, I can add multiple harmonics. So let me first clear these. So I'm because clear clears this list of modulations. I'm back to the original now, and let's change an harmonic by adding a second one. For instance, I can click this, and this is a toggle button, so it clicks it on and clicks it off. So now I've got two harmonics there. So something like this, and I could actually use any of the harmonic presets, and so let's first of all click a couple of those on here. And you can tell that I've got multiple harmonics being played at the moment, and that gives you obviously some kind of spectrum. I can actually go and switch to any of those and any of a number of presets that I have, but the only thing is that if I change that the harmonic selection that I have here will be overwritten. So if you have any specific sound created by using a number of harmonics it might not be nice to do that. So that's why the no setting is in green. So if you click that, nothing will change. But if I click on yes, I will get into the menu where I can select any of those. And as you can see, I have select basic, which is only one oscillator. But if I do select all, then actually all of the oscillators will be selected. And then obviously I have a completely different spectrum for all of the, by using all of the oscillators. Something like this, or if I, and this will come up extra every time because during the beta stage we had this without any confirmation in here, and yeah, then it would be easy to mess stuff up. So let's get something like the even ones, or the odd ones, or let's say we do a random selection of 10 oscillators, and that will be different always, of course. And that you hear this difference in frequencies because the oscillators themselves have a setting where they sort of follow the same kind of frequency ratio as a DX7 does. So that means that number 0 is the lowest one normally, and then it goes up in powers, so to speak. So you can create your own sounds that way. Apart from that, if for instance I would select the all, where I have everything, I see that I have my 64 oscillators selected at the moment, and then I have this frequency mode, and that's the way how those harmonics normally interact in terms of ratio, as I said. And normally I'm using the harmonic relation between all of those oscillators. But if I go to any of the other settings, TET6, which is a different step between all of the oscillators, or going down step 10, or any of the others, let's say I go to TET64, which actually means that there are 64 notes within an octave. So this would be 6 within an octave, 8 within an octave, 10, and so on, up to 64, which means that it's pretty close, the frequencies of all of those harmonics. But that means that there's also others like golden ratio, where other sorts of ratios are used for all of those harmonics. So something like this, which all changes the overall sound. So that might be a way of of getting very different sounds from even the same sort of preset that you use. So let's switch back to something more simple. So I'm going back to the select basic for one. So I'm at the normal 1 harmonic setting at the moment, and I'll switch a couple of those extra in there. And now, if I want to change the attack, for instance, I'm doing this at the moment only for that number 0, so the lowest harmonic. And that's because it's set current or edit current. But as you can see, I also have the option of edit all, or even, or odd, or octaves within that full list. So if I do an edit all, and now change this to another sort of setting, then I can get that kind of different sound, of course. And it also means that if I have it at edit all and I select to any of those other waves, like a saw wave, now all of those oscillators will be sines. But if I want to change that back to others as well, so let's say that I wanted one of the other oscillators to be a normal sine, I can actually switch through all of those selected ones here. As you can tell, I've got 0, 1, 3, 5, and 7 selected, and it means that it shows it here which one you will select. So if I set this, if I set this to a sine, and maybe some of the other ones as well, maybe set this to a sine as well, and I can just go on and select all of those as I wanted. So let's get back to the basic one again, the normal basic, because that's switching on. Oops, I didn't do it. I think, yeah. Oh, I still had it at saw. So switch it back to sine wave, and have. Hang on. And have just this this one oscillator selected. In sine, and I've got the envelope switched on, so that means that if I switch this off, so you notice that the envelope makes sure that it's going back to 0 state. But if I switch this on, I always have the sine wave audible, of course, and I can actually switch this on. I also have a mute sound, so even when this is switched on, I could have it muted here. That being muted on this part would mean that I could still use it as a modulation source for any of the other oscillators. So that will make it more interesting. So for instance, if I have, let's do something like this. Let's switch this one on, and I'll put it on envelope so it listens to the keyboard at least. And I'm going to get a higher one. And if I select that higher by going through this list, I could make it audible, but I could also use mute, so it's not audible, but I could still use it. So I could go into this list and use number 23 as a source index, and use its output, for instance, to go into number 0, and there change the phase of number 0 by using that. So now if I press a sound, or maybe I better switch the envelope off for number 0, then I can hear that I'm modulating with number 23. and I can change the setting by going through any of the modulations, clicking up and down and changing that. So I can hear that I can really change sounds really in a weird way, actually. And if I want it to be different, or if I wanted the frequencies to be lower, I can actually have the fix button on. So if I select this number 23, I'll listen to that. So something like that. So you can tell that you can, even while switching any to fixed, for instance, like this is, and muting it, it will not be audible, but you can still use it while not changing the pitch of that oscillator. So you get the sort of thing that you would do with a DX7, but with 64 oscillators. And to let you listen to something, I've prepared some harmonics patches. So let's do something like this. I've got a patch where I use my generate module that is actually putting some of the modulations in here, and I can tell from the list I can actually sort this list by pressing on either the index or the source index or the sources or the target index or the targets, so it keeps the list together. So if I do something like the source, for instance, I can see that I have a couple of envelopes that are being used to set the course settings of any of the other harmonics. And I've got an envelope out which is doing something, and I've got those couple of external inputs that do something. So there's a couple of harmonics, 5 of them, that are available or that are being used at the moment. So yeah, that's the sort of thing that you can do. And actually there's a setting in here that I forgot to save in this specific preset, but you can see that I have options like flat, sawtooth, square and triangle. This is based on the response of all of the used harmonics that are in there, because normally if you look at a sawtooth, for instance, it means that all of the oscillators change their corresponding volumes in between. So harmonic for the first harmonic number 0 would be the loudest, while the next one would be 30% lower or something, and the next one would be 30% of that value, and so on. There's a specific ratio between that, and the same goes for square and for triangle waves. And that means that that's sort of baked into this system. So if I'm going to clear this, or better still, I'm going to go back to some basic setting there. I only use a gate from my generate, but for the rest it's standard. And I'm going back to sawtooth, and I'm going to select everything. So select all of the things and make sure that my settings are okay. Oh, I didn't put a gate in there yet. So now the 64 oscillators are being selected, and they're switched on in a sawtooth wave way. So that means that the volumes between all of those harmonics respond like a sawtooth volume would be for all of the partials in there. if I go into a square, it might be a bit different. If I go into a triangle, it might be a bit different. But if I go to flat, it's really loud, and that's because all of the volumes are exactly the same for all of the oscillators. So if you want to be different for those, yeah, you'd have to switch all of the volumes or dial all the volumes back, or indeed go to that low response for that sawtooth back again. Obviously, it means that if you go into flat, you have more dial range for a level, so that can help in some sort of situations. The nice thing with harmonics is that by using this modulation matrix kind of thing, and for instance a generate where all of those gates and LFOs are all dialed in by this one knob and doing something at a certain time corresponding to the setting of those dials. You could have sounds where ADSRs for a certain oscillator will dial in, sort of, or will be forced in, while others are taking longer for the ADSR to work, and that kind of stuff, and while still also phase modulating at the same time. For instance, I've got a sound here like this. So as you can tell, the only thing that's in there is one harmonics module. I've got in total 3 harmonics selected: number 0, number 1, and number 20. And yeah, they're doing some cross modulation in there. Generate is switching on some of the gates of a specific harmonic, so that the attack, decay, sustain, release is being switched on for that sound, and it's phase modulating itself, that kind of stuff. And in the end, this is going into the delay and into the reverb, and then going into the main from voltage modular. So just to switch back a step, I'm going into the basic sound again, where I have only one. And just to show you, I'll take the pitch and the gate out, because normally the gate obviously works when you press a key on your keyboard, or for instance if I take it from this generate module, and it's only now switching on the oscillator 0 because that's the only one that is selected at the moment. So obviously I can change attack, decay, sustain, release for that. And if I wanted to have more sound, I could either put in more harmonics, because all of the harmonics will be gated, or all of the envelopes will be gated by the overall gate that's in here. So it means that if I just switch on a couple of those, I get a sound like this. And if I want to change all of them, I would go into edit all and switch the setting like this, so all of them, and I could do the same for envelope, etc. So now all of them are changed at the same time. But I could obviously do it a bit simpler to get a more full or complex sound by going actually into the basic again, or I could have switched the other ones off. So let's just take this first oscillator and modulate it with itself, the phase that is. So I'm going to switch or use index number 0, which is this first harmonic, use the envelope out, and I'm going to number 0 as a target, and I'm going to change its phase. So, and then I need to add it to my list, and I can dial this up and use this sound. So that's something. Now, for instance, if I wanted to have a different tempo for one of the other oscillators in there, so if I dial number let's take number 5, and I'm going to look at number 5, and it's I want an envelope, but I don't want it to respond to my overall global gate. Means that I can switch this off. Oh, I've got it still at selected edit all. Obviously I have to be aware of what I'm doing. So went back and got something like this now, and number 5 is no gate. It's looking at an envelope. I'll dial this back so I can take shorter envelope for that. And instead of using this global gate that I'm receiving, I'm going to take another gate out of another output from generate, and I'm going to put that into my external in. And then I'm going to select the source number 5 because that's the harmonic that I'm going to work with. I'm going to switch on my external input that I'm getting from this, and I'm using number 5 as a target, and I'm going to go to my gate. And if I add this in and dial this up, it's now responding to the tempo that this oscillator here is giving. So if I dial this back, and maybe I can reset it to make sure that they're in the same tempo. I can do this, and if I wanted to change the sound of this, maybe with a higher frequency in there, I could dial the next one in. And this number 9, I could have set that at no gate and no envelope, and just mute it here while still being able to use my source number 9 output to dial into number 5 to the phase, something like that. So now number 9, the tempo of number 9 is actually going into number 5, while 5 was actually was receiving the gate from this other one. So if I dial this back, it will dial in a different tempo. So if I do, so now my number 5 is coming in at a lower speed because this tempo for the gate is down. It's at a lower speed. So something like this. And especially when I combine this with some delay and reverb, you can get really nice sort of sounding soundscapes that you could play over. So only 3 harmonics are doing this at the moment. So as another example, I've got something here that is intended to be doing some rhythmic stuff, and again, harmonics is, in this case, there are 5 sources coming in, and I'm using sources from generate, but I'm also using a sequencer output in this case, where the sequencer in itself is also driving some pitches and stuff like that in here. So anyway, I will be creating several separate movies to expand on different parts and just focus on some parts of itself. But I think as an initial movie to show you a bit and let you listen to some of the possibilities that harmonics can give you, I hope that will be nice. Because for instance, here I've got a couple of oscillators on top, so I can just play over this. And obviously, I could go on forever. I hope that gives you some idea, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers. Bye bye.